Welcome, everyone. I am Jesse Mogul, and thank you for tuning in to the American Contingency Podcast. Here at AmCon, we are a united nationwide community of steadfast Americans ready to face any challenge that comes our way. Our mission is to inform you by equipping you with the knowledge and training you need to prepare for any human-made or natural disaster. Through active participation in our AmCon community, you'll have the opportunity to grow by learning from others' experiences and sharing your own. Together, we build resilience and strength through shared knowledge and mutual support. And as always, it's an honor and a privilege to have y'all here for about the next 30 minutes or so. And today I might actually keep this to 30 minutes because we have a special guest bringing in exclusively for y'all. Super pumped up about this entire operation that we've created over here with AmCon and being able to touch base with people who actually are out there in the field helping new members just like yourselves or old-timey members who just want to be able to make sure that they stay connected. And today we're bringing in Sam. He's our Ohio State coordinator. He's a professional musician, and he's just a very affable man. I've enjoyed talking to you so many times, Sam, and that gets you here on the microphone. It is an honor and a privilege. Welcome to the American Contingency Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, everybody out there. Hope you all are doing good.
Man, we've had so many conversations before trying to make sure that I ask some of the questions I've told you back then I wanted on the microphone. We really have to put a lot of concerted effort into that. But I know a good place to start is what instigated you to join American Contingency to begin with?
Well, I was kind of concerned about, there was a lot of insanity going on in the country, and in a lot of, I imagine there are a lot of people who were kind of on an island, metaphorically speaking, where they were kind of on their own should things get out of hand. And not just civil unrest, but, tornado, I live in Tornado Alley, so there's always that to consider, that kind of thing. And so once Mike Glover had mentioned that he was putting together a kind of a nationwide tribe, for lack of a better term, I thought, man, this is exactly what I've been wanting to find, so it's a blessing to me.
Well, we're honored to have you here as the Ohio State coordinator. I know that there's a lot that you do to make sure that everybody in the state of Ohio who's a member of American Contingency stays informed, equipped, connected, and is able to go through these trainings. For you, what are for those people out there who are not members of, or maybe even are, and they don't understand the logistics that go behind making sure that everybody in the community is able to continue to connect with one another. What's that like for you to coordinate all of this, especially with the American Contingency Adventure Challenge happening this year and being a part of just keeping everyone connected and communicating?
Well, yeah, there are, like, one of the things we're focused on right now are there are quite a few members in Ohio who they're members, but they're not in groups. We like to see more groups form, and there are various reasons, primarily geographical. We got trying to find people who are within 30 miles of each other to get them all grouped together, and then also scheduling. Needless to say, life happens. So that's been the primary focus for me in the past, 6 months. And there are groups forming. There were groups that were kind of on the loose side that are now, like, really, I don't know if official is the right word, but really, I wish I could find the right word, but their planning is more solid. And, it's not just meet at somebody's house, hang out and talk about stuff. You know what I mean? So it's,
well, and especially when we're trying to coordinate so many different varying schedules. And I know for a lot of people, they want to join a community, but then their first inclination is, well, how am I going to fit this into my schedule? I've already got kids or a partner or a house and mortgage and jobs. And we got lives. Life is a lot, right? Whether it's our smartphones just causing us to feel like we never get a chance to shut our brains off, or if it's just life in general. This country has got a lot of things happen right now. What is that like for you to be able to bring new members into the fold and connect them with people who've been around for a while so that they can start to feel the power of our community?
Well, honestly, a lot of that, fortunately, is since, and I'm gonna guess it's connected with the kind of mindset to which this group kind of appeals. There are people that, just for lack of a better term, get it. So, a lot of it has been taken care of on their own, as far as joining the group, announcing their presence, and then us kind of steering people kind of toward each other. And then, obviously you can't tell them, well, okay, you get together on this day at this time. So, it's just, okay, here's this guy's phone number. Here's this guy's email, good luck. Please work something out. Let us know. Keep us posted.
Well, and I know for me, when I first got hired on by Tom to come in and do social media, then that sort of became more about the blogs, then became this podcast. I skipped some of the steps that new members would normally follow through if they go through the new member training, and really getting my feed set up so that I knew who to connect with within the Southeast region, within my own North Alabama region, within the city of Huntsville, Madison, where I live. So there was a lot of things that I didn't even realize were available. And then when I go and I finally set up my feed, and I've got all these amazing people popping up with information about food and water and gardening and communication and mobility. There's so many different people talking about so many different topics. What's that like for you to guide new members and maybe some of us older members who just didn't know about setting up the feed, about connecting and being able to communicate? What's that like for you to guide them through that process of really turning that website into this living, breathing organism, which the feed creates?
Well, I'll be honest with you. All I've really had to do is just let them know about its existence, and let them know about the app, for example, and point them towards that address, because the site itself does pretty good on its own. It's getting more and more intuitive all the time as far as getting people the information that they need. But another thing I do is let them know what is available on that site, because it's pretty extensive. I mean, if you don't know what all's there, it can be kind of a labyrinth to find things, because there's just so much, so I can kind of point them, get them started, and then, they're grown people with working brains, and they work it out.
How do you utilize yours? Because being the state coordinator, you have a lot of opportunities to connect with people in a myriad of different ways. And when you think about this feed, which you're right, I mean, once you know how to set it up, it really does become, it's like having a Facebook feed, but without all the propaganda that Facebook pushes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? I mean, when Tom built it, he built it to have that user interface that everybody's comfortable with. How have you set up yours to make sure that you're able to connect and communicate with everybody you want to?
Well, I'm a member of a lot of groups, obviously Northeast and Ohio and Central Ohio, but also some others too, like Northeast Ohio. So just to make sure I'm accessible to them, to use that as an example. And as far as using the feed, I use the feed a lot. I mean, I'm on every day. A lot of it is for, well, I mean, there's so much to benefit. There's AISAT, of course, is invaluable.
Dive into that for a moment, because I know we throw out acronyms a lot with AmCon. I mean, heck, we've changed American Contingency to AmCon. That's just what we all call it. It's just sort of secondary nature now. But when you say AISAT, what exactly is that, and how is the feed helping you even be more in connection with those other people who are involved with AISAT?
Well, I can honestly say, and embarrassingly enough, that at the moment I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but there is a lot of information there that you won't see on a media website, on a news site, for example. There are a lot of things that every time I go in, which of course is every day, there's stuff that you don't see reported anywhere. In fact, I've been able to turn some things in from some sources of mine to them, or send them to them in case they were useful to them. And that is so invaluable, along with, for example, they'll list where the protests are going to be, which for people in those locales, members, they know to steer clear, et cetera, et cetera. Also posts from other members, just like I was talking about with me. There, a lot of people kind of have compiled their kind of groups of sources of information as part of the weeding out process of, because there's a lot there that's got nothing to do with reality. That's just, no thanks. But you're able to put sources together where it's like, okay, not only is this person plugged in, but they're credible, And so if something does show up there, you can post it. And I post it both on the website sometimes and on the Signal, some of the group Signal pages as well, or channels. and other members do that also. And also just getting the weather. We've got a fella Riggs 867 who's a weather guy. So we get this beautiful weather report in Ohio every day, and it's so awesome. It's way better than anything you'd get like on TV. I mean, this guy's a blessing. There are quite a few blessings in Ohio. Yes, I'm biased because it's Ohio, but yeah, we got some rock stars in Ohio.
Right. And all of this stuff just shows up on your feed. It's able to flow. You know exactly where to go to every single time. And AISAT, American Contingency Information and Situational Awareness Team.
Thank
AISAT. You. Yeah, I mean, I've combed through the I call it the archives, but really just all that training stuff, and I started looking into that one, and I was like, that's a lot. Well, but I don't know if I've got the bandwidth to join the AISAT team. But what I do enjoy, what I've learned, and you're not the first person I've talked to about the AmCon Information and Situational Awareness team, is specifically about the amount of effort that goes into making sure that the information that shows up there, the things that are posted on people's feeds, this isn't propaganda. We're not looking for liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. No. We cut through all that nonsense, and we say this is strictly the information that is imperative that you know without any bias representation.
Right.
You're nodding your head like you're like I'm spot on with that question.
Oh yeah, I get it. And you can definitely tell that's not something these guys do on their lunch break at work. I mean, there's a lot of effort that goes into that, and it's great to have it. We're quite fortunate to have that.
Well, and that really ties into the value of inform, inform, equip, train, connect. I mean, these are our 4 guiding values that we really put a lot of effort. All of us who are in leadership positions here at AmCon really care about those 4 values. And when it comes to informing, it's putting the information out there, letting somebody make up their own mind. We're not like those news channels that throw all those adjectives. This person had a meltdown, or what an amazing speech. Right. No, this is exactly what happened. We're not using adjectives and a bunch of other superlatives to try to make it clickbaity. We don't do all that. We inform people to the best of our ability, being mindful that information can change, and we make sure that we bring that new information when it arises.
Correct. In other words, honesty, which is sadly not as common as it once was.
Honesty. Whoa. Yeah. You mean all those cable news, and I'm using air quotes here, those they're entertainment stations now, they're not honest with me?
Well, of course, they're fair and honest. That's what they are.
Well, it makes me think about the other day, somebody they Huffington Post, and they said that they read this on there. I'm like, yeah, HuffPost used to be a news source, and then it turned into an entertainment information source. It's no longer a news source, and they were taken aback by that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, look at the way that they write their notifications on your phone. The whole thing is clickbait.
Right. It's like, God, I can't count. I'm 60 years old, so I'm an old dust farter, and a lot of us kind of, the older you get, the more you complain, I guess. But there are a lot of guys my age will sit around. I remember when the news used to tell you what happened. Period. They didn't tell you what they thought about it. They didn't tell you what they thought about who caused it. It's just this happened, and they depended on people's own intellect to kind of do whatever math they needed to process that for themselves,
Yeah, we are a long way away from Walter Cronkite.
You got it, boy.
And for any of you young listeners out there, go ahead and use your smartphone and Google Walter Cronkite. This guy, I'm pretty sure he was the one who told the world that JFK had been assassinated. I know he was the one who announced that John Lennon had been assassinated. So he was a very important figurehead back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And, back then you could trust news sources. And that's what we do with the AISAT team, is that we comb through, we make sure that we've got the most legitimate news possible, and we get it out there when it's pertinent to what people need to do in order to feel that they're prepared for, whatever may come next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, talking about Cronkite and what we were talking about earlier, Cronkite actually said, if a viewer can tell my political leanings, I'm not doing my job. So
Slam dunk. I do remember reading that because I went to school for journalism back in the 90s. Back in the 90s when we still thought journalism had legs. By the time I graduated in 2006, that whole field had been decimated. But certainly in 1994, when I started in that field, journalism was still something that was respected, and now not so much. And I think that's where a lot of us have to be really mindful. And there's this thing once in a while I mess around with crypto, and they always say, do your own research. The issue is that life is super complicated. There's a lot happening. There's just so many moving pieces that a lot of the times we want to be able to turn to that trusted source and say, I don't want to, you do the research and you report it to me. And then I can know that this is trustworthy. And there's a couple apps that try to help you do that. But for the most part, it feels like information's coming at us a mile a minute. It's all clickbaity. People read the headlines and they just assume it to be true. And sadly, it's not.
Exactly. And, also with the seemingly, and there again, this could just be me being an old man. It's seemingly there's a trend of larger and larger percentages of the public who are just lazy thinkers, which means you can shove whatever in their face and they'll just swallow it, accept it as reality and act on it sometimes, which can be pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, now you're hearkening my brain to go back to what has instigated a lot of people to join American Contingency was when Mike Glover posted that YouTube video about getting off the couch. And a lot of that was, I wouldn't even say a lot, as much as I really do believe that it was instigated by the riots that were happening in Portland, sort of that police state that they had created. I'm talking about a time where information would have been extremely important, and every news station is reporting it differently. With American Contingency, what I love about our feed and the community we've got is that you're able to get so much information specifically from people with boots on the ground. Is that probably a pretty good term for it? So if I want to know what's going on with a choo-choo train that spills a bunch of chemicals in a river in Ohio, I need only go onto our feed, and then I'm able to locate people like you who actually know what's going on.
Right. Yeah. That's the members, of course. It's nothing without the members anyway, but the contributions that the members conduct sometimes and don't even realize it are golden.
Speaking, that's a really good segue to the training. I know that we put a lot of emphasis on the online trainings. I mean, there's a lot of them. I know our, Denny G, our training coordinator, puts a lot of effort into making sure that those trainings go up. Tom does as well. Mike Lott, he's our regional coordinator, leader. I mean, there's so much effort put into those online trainings. We're going to get to the in-person ones because I definitely want to touch upon the American Contingency Adventure Challenge because I know ours is coming up, I think, on October 5th here in the Southeast in the state of Tennessee, and I'm looking forward to attending that. When you think about the online trainings and how they're able to help our members really get within the AmCon flow of our 12 categories, what has been something that's really noteworthy that you'd like to discuss here?
Well, one of the biggies to me has been the comms, because for a couple of reasons. One, not everybody offhand, I think, even realizes the importance of those. I mean, they get, I have a radio, but that's skimming the surface, and not only as far as its utility, but what it takes to actually operate it. For example, I know a lot of preppers and people like that. They've got their little Baofeng, because if there's an emergency, I'll turn it on and use it. Well, no, you won't. If it's not like buying a pair of Motorola's from Walmart, but you try to tell them and they look at you like you owe them money or something. I don't know if it's bursting their bubble or what, but so the fact that education is actually in part of the training in AmCon is massive to me, because there'd be a lot of people otherwise that would have it and need it and have no idea what to do with it when they needed it.
Yeah, good that you bring that up, because I remember when I had Denny G on, and there's been a couple other people who've talked about, the barrier of entry to get yourself a couple handheld radios is not that expensive, and it's actually something that is quite affordable on a lot of levels. And then you go into our online trainings, and we've got ones on ham radio. We've got people who have the ham radio certification. I know there's a license that needs that. I remember having, maybe it was Lori back in episode 7 or 8 when she came on, she was talking about that. Maybe it was Q who was talking about communication. There's a few others who specifically brought to my attention that there's like a whole step process to get a ham radio license, and we help people achieve that. We have trainings about that. So speak to how you've been able, because when you said comms earlier, for everybody who doesn't know what comms is short for, it's communication. And, you know, when you think about all the different trainings that we create around communication, because if a tornado knocks out your cell phone tower, or, you know, you get a hurricane go through, or, you know, zombie apocalypse, a lot of things can happen in life. Communication is going to be imperative to knowing what's going on in your community.
Absolutely. And, you know, we have a PACE plan to that effect. PACE being primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency. And that involves signal and Zello and radio, and of course telephone. And that's a practice that everybody, like at least in my group, you know, uses as an operative practice. And as far as the comms on the website, to be able to, like I said, it goes back to, it's one thing to have the box in your hand, but if you don't know what you're doing with it, it might as well not be, you know. And so
paperweight, you got a paperweight.
And you know, yeah, you can go find sources of information for all that. Or if you're an AmCon member, just go to the site and it's right there, you know, along with little quizzes and things like that, just for guys like me that need protected from ourselves when we go look at something and read them and think we got it all down, and take the quiz and it's like, oh, back I go, you know.
Well, and you bring a really good opportunity to expand on this, because a lot of people will go, and yes, there's a lot of information on the internet. And what I've noticed is recently I had to do something with software. So I was trying to find the answer, and ultimately I found some pieces of the answer, but then I had questions. And you can't just leave a note in a YouTube video and expect that person to get back to you, especially if the video is 3 years old. Versus AmCon, where you can go through the ham radio training, and then there are literally people in the ham radio group who will respond to your question. I mean, maybe not immediately. It's not like they're sitting there, you know, biding their time while they wait for you to ask a question, but it's going to be pretty quick. And now you've got somebody who, you know, is moderate to an expert user of this equipment, who's able to help you, versus the internet, which has no problem inundating you with information, but doing you very little service when it comes to keyword search and actually answering questions specific to your immediate needs. Right.
Yeah. We've got one page or group that's, you know, ham radio from Elmer's. And Elmer, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but Elmer is like the veteran top level extra guru type ham radio guy, and they put that all together for those guys to help gomers like me. You know, so once again, it's the type of person that this whole thing is attracted to, or that are attracted to it, are great people, you know. Great people.
They really are. There's this desire to help other people become self-sufficient. And I've noticed this a couple of times, because my brain's like, okay, we put a lot of attention with and you know, we inform, we equip, we train, connect. We got the feed, we've got the trainings, and we talk a lot about self-sufficiency. But to me, and I think that's where one of our guiding principles really is here, is that we want you to be self-sufficient. We also realize in order to achieve your maximum level of self-sufficiency, you actually need to rely on other people to help you along that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, boy, there are some rock stars in Ohio with that kind of thing. Mama T.
Oh, man. She's on the show soon. She's going to be on the show soon.
She has forgotten more about that. Most of us will learn in 2 lifetimes. And the way she delivers the information, it's almost like she's giving you a hug as she does it, man. She's just a ball of positive energy. Her and they rock. Yeah, she's a blessing as far as like a source of information. And yeah, that's great that you're having her on.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so now you brought her in. I gotta give her a shout out on this episode. So we recently built an above ground garden, a raised bed garden, and it's not that big. It's 4 foot by 8 foot, 32 square feet. But we had, man, I'm telling you right now, Sam, our squash, our zucchini, our cucumbers were flourishing. I finally got a nice sized tomato. I was so excited. It rained a bunch. We didn't water for a few days. We're not sure if that's why everything wilted, but I mean, overnight everything wilted and died. And I happened to have her on the phone, and I simply started out, you know, I was like, hey, everything just wilted and died like overnight. And I've tried to Google this, and I'm not getting anything specific that that makes me feel comfortable with their answer. And she started talking about like some caterpillar and some beetle and how they're like, they can cause things to wilt. And she started discussing with me about how gravity will pull all the water out of the raised bed, that it's not like normal ground where it holds water, and like things that internet. And I trust me, dude, I spent an hour trying to figure out why my cucumbers and zucchini died overnight. And she answered that question in 3 minutes. And I was like, oh, case in point.
No surprise at all. No surprise at all.
Yeah, and she does the same thing that you said, that she's on the feed all the time. She's always, answering questions or having people answer questions. Because I think Noel Bishop and both Denny G have said this at one point. It's like, we don't want people to be experts in all 12 categories. That's not what we're asking here. We want you to be proficient in each of them, but everybody's going to have their strong suit, and the things you're not strong in, other people will be able to pick up the slack for you and give you those answers you need.
Yeah, it's a wonderful community. I love it to death. I really do. I'm lucky to have it.
It's a blessing. And so, when you think about all the ways that, equip, so, equipment, and, you talked about ham radios, you talked about the AmCon Adventure Challenge. What is something I haven't asked you about that you've wanted to bring up with your opportunity on the microphone?
Well, I don't know. We've covered things pretty well. One thing I do got to credit Mr. Rigsby for is, in terms of equip, is they came up with a principle for certain key pieces of gear that they referred to as good, better, and best, where, best is generally not cheap, right? But you got to start somewhere. Start with the good, build on it. And it's what I've done organically for decades with my own gear. You start with what you can, and as you learn and got a little more money, blah, you know what I mean? That's what really, because if you go to any retailer, of course, and the first thing they're going to hit you with is this $500 comprehensive fine piece of equipment, Yeah.
I love that you brought up the good, better, best, because that would not have occurred to me to ask you about. But you're right. I remember discussing that with him whenever he was, developing all that back in the day. And I remember being like, that's actually quite genius, because if I'm a newbie to this and I've got $100 budget, I would be fine with good when it comes to, let's say, handheld communication devices. You might have been around for a while, and now you're looking to upgrade to best. And there's always opportunities to sell things on, a marketplace, or heck, to our own members. Be like, hey, I'm upgrading to better. Does anybody want my good? And the fact that he has that, because you go on some of these, Amazon, we all know Amazon. Most of us probably shop on there, whether we want to admit it or not. Yeah. And they don't give you good, better, best, but they give you a ton of reviews. And some of them are clearly sponsored because they've got 5,000 5-star reviews and not a 1-star review, where we don't do that. We're like, hey, this is what it is. This is the pros. This is the cons. It's good or it's not good, but we're not going to sit here and try to blow smoke up you. We're going to tell you the faults of this piece of equipment, and we're also going to tell you the good aspects of it as well.
Yeah. Which, once again, that's what grown logical people do, So it's nice to have that to one's avail, because it's not prevalent like it used to be.
When you think of an equipment where you may have started off, I just figured there might be a personal story here. Did you start off with something that's good that you now upgraded to the best with, and been able to learn more about that through the community?
Oh, I've got an embarrassing amount of stuff. So that's part of being a musician. I think there's this gearhead mentality. So you just accumulate, and I've been playing for 55 years. So there's just, metric tons of stuff that I probably forgot I own, but the most lately, as far as improving on, picking something up and then improving on it, is part of the process. It's almost like, with holsters, just using it as an analogy. Anybody that first starts carrying generally will wind up with a box full of holsters, because they'll try something. This might be work. It sucks. Let me find something else. In the box it goes. Yeah, this works a little while. I don't like it. In the box. I can't believe that the used market for holsters isn't just exploding, But for me, that same principle has applied, just believe it or not, to pouches, because depending on where you're going to put them on your pack, if you're going to put them on a pack at all, sometimes they'll work, sometimes they won't, or you find something, well, I need a pouch for blah, blah, blah. So you get a pouch for it, and you know what? I need a pouch for that too. So then you want to have to get a bigger one, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it could just be a mental failing on my part as well. I don't know, but to answer the question, that's my That's my rabbit hole du jour.
I remember for Christmas, I think it was 2 Christmases ago, Tom got me a backpack with it's American contingency one. And it's sort of got that beige, like
Yeah.
camo look to it.
Yeah.
And I think the AmCon might be like a Velcro thing on there, but I'm bringing it up one because it is just such a well-built backpack, and it's got all these really cool places that you can hook carabiners to hang these pouches off of.
Yeah.
And I see this and I'm just like, that's my go bag to get out of the house because it can hold so much. And with all the little opportunities for pouches, and I'm a pouch guy because I want everything in its own little thing, because if I want something real fast, I don't want to have to find it at the bottom of the backpack. I want it to be where I want it to be. And I'm Mr. Organizational. Like I didn't do a musician, but I had a lot of equipment back in my TV show days. And I know if you got something lost, then you might as well not even have it.
Right. It's exactly right. Exactly right. And obviously the stuff that you would be you'd need the most urgently is stuff you want on the top. But without the pouches, at that point, you're almost looking at the main cavity in the pack. Then you're looking at this game of Tetris. You just try to get it all fit. Well, that doesn't mean that it's going to be at the top if you need it a lot. You know what I mean? So pouches are the answer. But then, of course, you can wind up looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man because your pack's got all these little pouches poking off.
I love talking about this stuff just to realize I'm not the only one who goes pouch crazy. And
you are not alone.
Like if I'm trying to squeeze through somewhere tight, my backpack is gonna be the first thing that gets me hung up.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I know a guy he was a former linebacker, so the guy, he could carry a Kia on his back if he had to, but he's got this massive pack that looks like the astronauts wore on the moon, and he's actually got compression straps because it pokes so far backwards. So to get through the door, he's got to pull these compression straps to flatten the pack out some more to get through. So.
But hey, if you can put it on your back, if you can carry it long distance, then by all means have it. That's why I tell people.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what should I have in my backpack or my go bag? I'm like, what you need to decide right now is how heavy of a weight are you willing to carry for hundreds of miles? Right.
And then the distribution of it is critical too, so that you don't wreck your back in the process. There's so many factors. I got some training as an outfitter years ago, and yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And of course, the longer you're out, the more potential for injury and fatigue, that kind of thing. So it's a pretty big deal by how you pack it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of packs and being outdoors, what do you think about the Northeast? You guys, your AmCon Adventure Challenge. I wish I knew if you've already had it or not, but I think it's coming up.
Coming up.
Yeah, because yours is before ours, right? Ours is October 5th.
Yeah, ours is in third week of September.
Yeah. Do you anticipate good weather for that, or do you think it might be some really interesting conditions that people get to test themselves through, right? Because we're looking for resiliency. We're looking to have people put themselves in a position they're not normally generally comfortable with, if that's a good way of saying it. So certainly Northeast, September, who knows what kind of weather you're going to get.
Right. At this stage, generally in Ohio, in September, the biggest possible things to complain about weather-wise would be either just extreme heat, extreme humidity combined with the extreme heat potentially, or just rain. Beyond that, it's still early enough in the year where it won't get cold or anything like that. So at least nobody's going to be shivering overnight, at least.
Yeah, maybe a little wet, but that'll make the starting the fire, right? Because there's levels too. So if you're really, if you're just starting off, you might get the dry wood and the dry supplies. But if you consider yourself expert level, then we're gonna douse all of your fire starting things in a lot of water and hand it to you and say, okay, make that happen, buddy.
Here's your test. Yeah, which is great. I love that. I love that they're doing that. Because it's funny to think that I won't digress for too long, but 150 years ago, this was just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
People, like I was worthless at starting a fire, and then I got a wood burning stove in my old house. And all of a sudden I can almost look at it and it'll be a fire just because you're just so used to doing it, Mm-hmm. And it dawned on me, it's just like, yeah, it's been like this for 500 years or whatever, So
starting a fire is like a basic skill that everybody should have in life, because it is, I mean, what is it? Water, food, shelter, warmth. I mean, a lot can happen with the fire, having it near your shelter, being able to cook your water so that you can get rid of bacteria, and certainly for cooking up your food. I mean, hey, look, humanity would be nowhere without fire.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And once again, because of, well, what's the old saying? There's the cycle throughout civilization where times were hard and they made people tough. Those tough people made times easy. The easy times made soft people, and the soft people made times hard again, so, and then that circle just repeated throughout the history of civilization. And we're about a degree 359 of that right now. It's me. If you don't.
I was going to say, you just nailed where the United States of America is. So that's what it was. Hard people were World War II vets, right? They came out, they made life super easy. We're about 3 or 4 generations into just a substantially easier society. And now all of those people who have been drinking from the easy cup are making things difficult again. So here we go. Maybe we'll be able to right this ship after all, because the United States is falling into that 253. We're getting ready to come up on 250 years old. That's generally when empires start to show some chinks in the armor.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there's enough going on to frighten me, for what that's worth.
Well, that's a really good closing right there for what we're gonna. I love to ask this question to finish up, and I call this the aftershock question. Like, if you had this opportunity to say something to the world at large, to people who might be interested in American Contingency, already members, or people who are just thinking, there's a lot going on and I have no idea what to do right now. What would be a message you'd want to say to them about, resiliency, self-assuredness, American Contingency? What would be some words of like hope or inspiration you could provide them?
Well, I would say I hope they take the same comfort that I do, knowing that there are others of a similar mindset and with their hearts and values in the right place. And one of those is helping each other along those same lines, So be glad we're all here.
We get to breathe another day to make it happen a better way.
That's it, brother.
I love it, man. You have been a pleasure to have. Do you feel complete? I mean, there's a lot of things we could be talking about, but I'm not trying to turn this into an hour-long episode here. You've just been so affable and jovial throughout this entire thing. I'm gonna just really just be able to walk away from this just really having enjoyed all of our communication we've had over the last few months.
Same here, bud. Same here. Absolutely. I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for having me. You got some great ones coming up too.
Oh man, am I pumped or what? So then we'll get Mama T. You're up next. Mama T's up next.
Here goes Mama T.
Here comes Mama T. I will see about keeping her to a 30-minute time limit, because she has got some stories.
Good luck, buddy. She's a funkin' Wagnalls all by herself.
I really do appreciate you. That's Sam. He's our Ohio State coordinator. He's a professional musician. He will make fun of himself for being a professional musician all day long, but something tells me you know how to shred those drums, brother.
Well, I don't know. People are nice enough to give me money to do it, so I'm not going to complain.
Well, we certainly enjoy and, in fact, love having you here at American Contingency. Just another amazing leader that we have within our ranks who really showed up, stepped up, and is helping other people figure it out on their own. You're amazing. Thank you so much, brother.
Great. Back at you, man. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, my friends, thank you for joining us for another awesome episode of American Contingency. When you're ready to build the skills, the network, the confidence to be prepared for whatever comes next, join us at AmericanContingency.com. We're here when you're ready. We'll keep the fire going so you can find your way. See you next time. Bye-bye.